Wow, we had 14 days. 14 days, and we're going to meet our third daughter. We didn't have a 9-month pregnancy. We were paper pregnant for 14 days, and we're gonna have our baby. It was nerve-wracking. For us, it didn't make sense. Why can't we visit the baby in foster care so that she gets to know us before she's just rudely yanked away from her foster parents who she's known? She was with a family nearby. And as I don't know if you remember, I took many videos. I had many outtakes, but I hope I mentioned how the social workers had told us that there were no records of her first 2 months because the person who had been looking for her disappeared, which didn't make sense. So I had been posting and sharing in our adoption group, and I shared about how we had been told that her arm, our daughter's arm, had been fractured during birth, dislocated, and someone who was a foster mother for Anonymous wrote and said to me, "That's a lie, they're lying to you." What actually happened is your baby, before she went to this foster family, she was not with them all along. She had not been with them. She was in an orphanage or baby home or children's home, whatever you would like to call it. And while she was there, a volunteer picked her up improperly. That was the phrasing she used. And what upsets her, this foster mother, besides the fact that a baby got injured by a human, by an adult, is the fact that they didn't follow protocol in terms of the investigation, shutting the place down for a proper determined length of time, calling the police. They didn't do what they should have done. They just shut down for a day, kept it all hush-hush, and the volunteer just left. And that was it. So that is why there was no record. They were hiding from us where our child had been in case then we might go and ask them, "Can you tell us about her first 2 months?" And then find out what had happened. So now we're going through the second adoption of our son, and we know that there's something dodgy already. We already knew there was something dodgy or off about Anonymous. Now, as we said, we had agreed that we had said we want a semi-open adoption only because open adoption wasn't an option that Anonymous had given us. We had wanted to write letters, updates to the birth mother. And the birth mother also wanted this kind of relationship. And we even said to each other, my husband and I, that, man, we bet if open adoption was an option, sorry, I keep using that word, then maybe she would also have been open to it if she's open to this. The social workers had said we must send only 4 updates a year and photos, but only for 2 years, and then after that we must stop. And then at age 18, the child can look for her biological family if she wants to, and then they can reunite at that point, reconnect at that point. It didn't make sense. Why 2 years? Why only 2 years? I didn't get it. And why only 4 updates a year? I would want to know much more often. And as I said, I like to write. So I would have written, and I did write many more updates than just the 4 per year. But that's further ahead in the story. So we are waiting the 14 days, washing the baby's clothes. You know how they say when your baby's clothes are brand new, we must wash them because of dyes and chemicals. So we washed and we're hanging baby clothes. Our children are so excited. They were 8 and 7 years old at the time, thereabouts. And they were so excited they're getting a baby sister. But it was hard as well because we wanted her now. We hated the fact that we couldn't even go visit her and get to establish a bond with her while she's with the people she knows. It just felt wrong to know that she had left her birth mother. Then she had left some children's home, I know the name. And then now she was going to leave these foster people who had been her family and come to us. It just felt wrong that we couldn't first make it, the transition softer by getting to know her first. But those were the rules. And my husband kept saying, I just feel wrong. I feel wrong. He was made to preach that Sabbath. And he said, I feel wrong. It feels like my child is missing, like she's been kidnapped and I need to go find her. How can I prepare? I can't focus on my sermon when I know my child is not with me. And you see, this is what I wish so many, especially Black people, would understand. Adoption means becoming a mother, a father of a particular child. It's not just doing an act of welfare or charity, it's becoming parents. We love those children with all our hearts. They are our children. So that's how we felt. He felt like she's gone. We need to find her. And so we were going to meet with our child's parents, both of them, which was unheard of. It is very rare to have a birth father and a birth mother together placing a child and willing to meet. It was huge for me. It was wonderful. I wanted photos. I wanted to be able to tell our child every little thing that I could possibly tell them. I didn't want them to ever have any questions that I can't answer. And that was why I'd hoped for an open adoption, so that they can get an answer anytime they have a question. And this is something else that I saw that was very different between me and other adoptive parents. Other adoptive parents want to act as if the children have no history, as if the child was never in someone else's womb, as if the child has no other genes. And that's not right. You can't deny the child's past. It's not fair to your daughter or son. It is not fair. Before they became yours, they were someone else's. Whether they're unwanted now or not, I can't speak on that. But they have a history. Respect it. Honor that. But yeah, so that's where we stood. We wanted our child to know as much as she could. So it was very exciting because I knew I was going to have photos. Then if she ever wanted to see the photos, she could, and she would know what her parents looked like. So we met at a place. I won't say where because Anonymous tends to do these meetings at this particular place. So it will just be obvious. So we met at this place and the foster mother was there. She was so cold. It's only now later that I think that she must have been mourning, grieving, having to say goodbye to this little human that she had been raising and loving and feeding. The foster grant is not a lot at all. So the foster parents give from their own pockets. It's love. It's not to get a foster care grant. They don't make money from this. Believe me, they don't. And all we had to thank her was a packet of diapers for the next baby. It felt so like useless, but how can you say thank you to someone for being a mother to your baby? For being a mother to your baby. There's no way you can ever thank them. There's nothing big enough that you can ever do. So she was there and we heard that the birth parents were there. They came in. We hadn't met our baby yet. My arms were itching to carry her, but we had to go through the process. Here's the other thing that had also irritated me. It was that Anonymous, the social worker, had told us that we must not speak isiXhosa to the birth parents when we met them. Now, I'm not Umxhosa. My mother is, but my father is Msotho, but I know isiXhosa. And I didn't know why they wouldn't want us to use whichever language is easier for the birth parents to communicate in. Why should we keep everything in English? Why should they be able to listen to everything? Why the monitoring? And that on top of the fact that they were going to be monitoring our communication. There was something off about it. So we met the mother. She was beautiful. The birth father was just like sitting there, like, I don't know. He was so relaxed and so chilled. He never said a word. They even asked him, what do you think, Dad? And he said, he literally said, I've got no problem with them. That's what he said about us. She told us everything. She even told us things we had not expected, things the social workers had not told us, things our daughter had survived that happened before she was born, that were inflicted on her. I'm hoping you can read between the lines. She was open, so honest, and I just felt like a bond, like a kinship. I just felt a sisterhood. I felt sad for her. I didn't know how to express my joy because I thought, okay, she hasn't been with her child for 3.5 months. So it's not like I'm smiling and happy because I'm taking the child away from her, but it still feels wrong to be joyous that I'm about to become a mother to a child that you couldn't mother. And some of the things she said, which I think are okay to mention, she was saying, I couldn't raise this child. We can't. We already have a child we can't raise already, who's been taken care of by a relative, not her and the father, a different father. And she said, I didn't know what to do. And then she remembered how on TV she'd heard about adoption. That's what I was saying, that it's not known in South Africa. It really wasn't the norm, especially amongst us Black people. And she knew that, okay, in America, they do adoption. So let me ask the social workers in the hospital if they can facilitate an adoption for me. Because, as she said, I love her a lot, but I can't take care of her. So I couldn't imagine myself, these are her words, just dumping her, that's what we call it, dumping the baby in the field, somewhere in the bushes, somewhere on railroad tracks. These poor babies. One baby was even found floating in the ocean on a plastic bag. So she said, I loved her too much to just dump her, but I can't raise her. And as I said, she said, God said no to the things she had tried to do. And he said, no, I want to preserve this child for someone else. And so the funny thing is, the name that we thought of the Hebrew name was given by God. This child was given to us by God. That's what we believed. And so when she said, but God said no, I got these shivers, I really had these shivers down my spine. Because this story, this is only the beginning of how God worked. So we met, and I asked her to tell us about certain health things. I didn't care what Anonymous had said. And she answered me. She told the truth. And that was that. And I knew she was going to write. And she did write. She wrote me a letter. And in the letter, she promised that she would write some more. She said she had gone back to high school at night to finish her high school. And she was going to send us photos to show us, how they've changed. I sent updates. And then that was it. She never wrote back again, ever. And time went on. Now, in the meantime, because, as I said, the stigma of adoption, the question my sister asked me when I told her we were adopting, she said, what's wrong with the child? Why is the mother giving her away? That is exactly the kind of stuff we had said we don't want to happen, but it happened anyway. So I had a public page on Facebook all about adoption, trying to encourage Black people to adopt, trying to prove that you can love an adopted child just as you would a biological child. And I then had my own personal profile. The thing is with this whole adoption thing, the birth parents only get to know your first name only. They never knew our surname. We couldn't tell them which town or city or suburb we lived in. They just knew the province, and they knew our first name and what we looked like. That is it. So there I am posting happily, we're enjoying our little baby, and I said a lot that was positive about the birth parents. People really look down on birth parents a lot. They're not as respectful as I've seen many Americans. There's no respect, really. They don't understand the desperation. They don't understand that for them it's the best thing they can do, or they believe they can do for their child. To feed your child. You don't want your child to starve to death, and if someone else is the only option, then that is the option they have to take. So I said a lot about her and how I wished her well, and I was worried about her. Is she mourning? Is she grieving? Is she depressed? I didn't know anything. She wasn't writing to me. And then one day I told a friend that, I'm really worried about her. And I had her ID number because we had the birth certificate and all. So my friend found someone who looked her up, found her work details, where she was working, and I found her job on Facebook. And I was so happy because she was smiling. And I thought, wow, at least she can smile. I know, I'm sure now she's not always happy. But firstly, thank God she's alive. I didn't know whether she'd committed suicide. I've never given a child away, so I don't know what it feels like. Okay, I've never placed a child. There's PC terminology also to use. But I was glad that she was alive, and I was glad that she could smile, that there were some moments of happiness in her life. I was so relieved. And she actually worked a block away from where my husband was working at the time, but they never bumped into each other. The world is so small. And then I got her cell phone number from this source. And I thought, okay, I can't find her. I couldn't find her on Facebook. I couldn't find her anywhere using her names. So I thought, this is all or nothing. Let me just do it. So I sent her a WhatsApp message and I said, hi, Mama. Well, that wasn't her name. That's not her name. I didn't call her Mama. I called her by her name. I hope you don't mind me sending this to you directly instead of through the social workers. It's just that we don't really trust that the social workers are passing on our messages just as they are. I wanted to know if you're okay. I've been praying for you. Are you well? Are you healthy? And if you really have moved on and you don't want to know anything further about our daughter, yours and mine, let me tell you something about that. When we're discussing names, because the social workers are heavily into this is your baby because you're infertile. When you're infertile, then you give birth and you name your baby. So they were big into we must name the babies, even if the birth parents had named them already. So we had, thrown around the idea, or I had, because I'm the Sotho, my husband doesn't know Sesotho. I had thrown around the idea of calling our daughter Waruna, which means ours, O-U-R-S, ours. And the reason being, I wanted her to know that she's our daughter, but also her birth parents, that she would never need to hide her curiosity. She's ours. We all love her and want the best for her. But then I thought, but I don't know if they do love her. This was when we were still choosing names before we'd even finished screening. I didn't know their history. What if they hate her? What if they don't want anything to do with her? So I discarded the name Waruna and thought, oh, well, no, it's too, I'm assuming too much. But then on the day that we met the birth parents, the day we got our baby, they told us that they chose the name Owethu, which is isiXhosa. It's a Xhosa name meaning Waruna, which means ours. And they said we want her to know that we love her and that we didn't give her away because we don't love her. We just didn't know what else to do. And so the social worker told them, but that's the name they wanted, meaning us. And she said, well, there we go. It must be God. Oh, and I forgot to tell you this part. As I said, the foster mom had been with the baby and we were talking with the birth parents and getting to know them and their history and the reasons. So there were many reasons for placing the baby. And finally, the time came for us to get our daughter. So they gave our girl to her birth mother, which felt weird. I was thinking, how do you do it? How do you hand over your baby forever, for life? So she took the baby and she placed her in my arms. And as she put our baby girl in my arms, her birth mother told her, here's your mommy. And I felt like I'd been given permission to be happy. Finally, I'm the mommy. She was telling me, it's okay, you are her mom. You are her mom, be her mom. And even in her later on, that one letter we got, she said it was lovely to see the big siblings and how excited they were to get their little brother. And she said, it was scary. We didn't know what to expect. What if you're just taking her on, out of duty? But from the love and the joy, we could see that she was really going to be part of the family. So I was glad that we could express that joy and that it was okay. It was actually okay to be happy. And don't forget that if you're a prospective adoptive parent, yes, you feel guilty, but be happy, be excited. They need to know that you do love that child and you want them purely, you deeply, from the depths of your heart, want to be their mother, not just a caregiver. express your joy. So yeah, as I said, I wrote this message and I said, I'm sorry if I'm opening up wounds you have been trying to close. I'm sorry if I'm getting in touch with you and I'm about to spoil your day. But I really am not okay with the silence. The silence is worrying me. And I just wanted to know that you're fine. And I want you to know that she's fine. And I want you to keep my number. You can block me if you don't want to talk to me. You can just send me a message saying, leave me alone. But I want you to have the number so that if you ever change your mind and you do want to get in touch, you can use it. And if I ever change my number, I will send you a message to give you my new number. And I thought, what if she contacts Anonymous? We were still in the process of adopting our son. No, we had adopted him. We had him now at this point. But the adoption process was not done, because once you have the child, you're only a foster mother. You then apply to the government to become their parent. And then the adoption order comes, which takes about a year. Well, it did back then. That says from the government, you are this child's mother and father now, and you are hereby ordered to give them your surname. So we were still foster parents until that time. So I thought, what is going to happen? What if they take our son away from us, who we now had in our possession? But I just couldn't. I couldn't leave it anymore. So I sent the message and I walked up and down the house. I was so stressed. I was thinking, oh no, what if she tells them? What if we blacklisted? Because for me, as my husband told a friend, if my wife had the money, she would adopt a whole van load of children, a combi full of children. So I didn't want to shut the door and have us blacklisted as stalkers. I was so scared she was going to tell them this person is stalking me. About 2 hours later, I saw her response, and it said, I'm crying. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? This woman is at work. She said, I'm at work, I'm crying. And I didn't read the rest. I hadn't opened it. I felt so bad. I thought, we're in trouble now. I have messed up big time. What have I done? What have I done? How could I be so selfish? Yes, it was for me. I was curious, but I also wanted it for my daughter. So I opened the rest of the message. Thank God. Thank God for people who help. Because my friend's person who found her details, she wasn't paid. We'd never paid her a cent. I didn't even get to know her name. But she said, I'm at work and I'm crying. I have been depressed for months, thinking that you don't want to text us, you don't want to write to us anymore. I was wondering why you have gone silent. As I said, I had been sending even more than the 4 updates per year that Anonymous had asked for. And that is why I named those other social workers as ethical social workers. Birth mom and birth dad had not been receiving my photos and my updates. She went on to explain, as we now started chatting, that when the updates stopped coming, they thought, okay, they figured they've got their baby, so they looked for us on Facebook. My name is Thandi. Thandi is a very common black name, very common amongst even different language groups. Zulu, AmaXhosa, Ndebele is from Zim, even AmaSwati. I think there are some Thandis. So she looked online. You can go and search for yourself, Thandi. Look for Thandi and see how many there are. She looked for all the Thandis she could find and for my husband's name, hoping she would see us and they could somehow figure out if the baby is fine. And not only did they eventually find my personal profile, they found my public page. And she said that was a lifeline. I had come to the point where I wanted to kill myself because I didn't know how my child is doing, where she is. Had I made a mistake? But then you were posting and you were so happy and you were enjoying being her mom, and we could see some pictures, though at the time we had to hide the face. and you were posting such nice things about us. And she said, because she was at this time she was still living with our daughter's birth father, she said, we were happy now. And sometimes, so maybe once a week or after 2 weeks, the father would say, hey, what has Sis Tandy said today? How's our daughter? And we could go on Facebook and see that she is loved, she is wanted. That was the saving grace. And then she asked, so did you get her first birthday card? They had sent a birthday card for our daughter's first birthday to tell her they had not forgotten her, they will never forget her, and they love her. And Anonymous chose to keep it. They never told us. They never told us that the birth mother still wanted, and that she was reading our messages. So I thought, let me just test them. So I wrote to Anonymous, and I said, hey, Anonymous social worker, tell me, is birth mother coming to read the updates we're sending? Because she's not writing back. Is she at least reading what we're writing? And Anonymous told us, oh, she's probably moved on. She has not cared or checked, but we're keeping the letters in a folder for her. When she gets stronger one day and she wants to know how her child is, she will find the letters. Never will I ever again adopt through Anonymous. How do you separate a child from their past? Do you know what kind of a blessing it would be to know that my parents do love me, my birth parents, that they didn't forget about me? How do you take that away from a child? As for the birth mom, how do you leave her not knowing how her child is? What kind of cruelty is that? It was truly God's grace, his love, and his kindness that brought us together, that gave me the confidence to write to her. And I'm so thankful. Up to today, 2023, our daughter is turning 9 next month. She's turning 9 years old next month. We got her at 3.5 months old. And though for that first year and a bit, Anonymous had made sure we're not in touch, but we are still in touch with birth mom, even up to today. She had moments. I won't lie. It is painful for her, especially being a birth mother, because she feels so much guilt. She feels so much regret. She hates that her child will know that she was placed. No matter how nicely you phrase it, at the end of the day, I will know that my mother didn't want me. I will feel like my mother didn't want me and sent me away, and she hates that. And she has special needs. Our daughter has special needs, and she feels like maybe what she did when she was pregnant, the way she didn't take care of herself, etc. She feels that maybe that's what has caused the special needs, and so she feels guilty about that. So there would be times she would just not communicate at all for months. But we're back, and she has another baby, another girl with a different father. And she asked me if I could take that baby temporarily. But my health doesn't allow me. I wanted to with all my heart. I want to keep the siblings together. But when she was pregnant, her daughter, her firstborn, had already said, no, Mom, I'm not losing another sister. You can't give her for adoption again, because that was what she had wanted. She had thought of placing this third baby for adoption, because the father, oh wow, I've read the messages he has sent. He is not in the picture at all. But no, we will help her to keep her own child and parent her child. We will not take this little baby. I've seen her face, she's beautiful. All her daughters are beautiful. But I told her, you need to stop. You need to stop, okay? As your big sister, that's what she calls me. She calls me her big sister. She calls me Owetu's mother. And that's what her daughter also calls me. She calls me Owetu's mother. I am the mother. I'm not a caregiver. I'm not they know their place. And I say this because I eventually told Anonymous that, listen here, Anonymous, I've been in touch with the birth mother directly. And Anonymous said, you can't do that. You're going to confuse your daughter. She's going to be confused about who's the parent. I'm like, no, we call her birth mother, auntie, whoever. So it's not like I call her mom and mom. She's only got one mom. It's me. And she's fine. Our daughter is not stupid. She knows she was in someone else's tummy, and she knows I'm her mom, and she knows the struggles that she's in, and she's not confused. So don't believe those people who tell you open adoption doesn't work or direct communication. Of course, it doesn't work all the time, but it can work. It is working for us. And so that's us. That was our adoption story.